Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today I have the 2022 Realtor of the Year for the St. Augustine St. John's Board of Realtors, where she's also the treasurer. She's also a pilot and on the board of trustees at the Whitney Laboratory in St. Augustine. We're going to learn about that. She is committed to not only making the real estate industry better, but her community as well. Let's welcome Danielle Fraser of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services to the show.
Thanks so much, Tracy.
Thank you for coming on.
Good to see you.
Making that long trek up from. You're already done. You're in Crescent Beach.
I'm in Crescent.
You're in Crescent Beach. It is a little bit. It is a little bit of a journey from the southern end of the county.
Yeah.
We're at two opposite ends. I guess Marineland can only be any further.
Yeah,
in,
exactly.
Down south of the county there, any further away.
Part.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Danielle, like always, just tell us a little bit. Where you're from, where you grew up, and how'd you end up at Oral Roberts?
Great questions. So I grew up, I was born in Independence, Missouri. And of course, my husband always says, of course you are. I'm a very independent individual. But Independence, Missouri, spent my 7 years of my life there before my father and mother moved us to a small little town in Oklahoma, Claremore, Oklahoma, which is the birthplace of Will Rogers. And ended up graduating high school from there, had a very flourishing and wonderful high school career. Enjoyed many, many friends and still have lifetime friends from there. From there at ORU, I actually ended up playing college soccer and college tennis at D1 school in Arkansas. Tore my knee my freshman year and transferred. I always grew up saying I would never go to ORU. I played tennis tournaments there, and when you go there, you'll have to Google it. But it's basically George Jetsonville. You know, you think about all of these buildings with gold and everything else in the back of that time, and nothing against him, but Oral Roberts locked himself in the tower and said that God would strike him dead if he didn't raise $1 million. So, of course, I was like, why would I go to a place like that? Needless to say, my ODP coach and a coach that I knew well from soccer was going to coach there for soccer. And a bunch of the ladies I used to play club ball with went there. So it was kind
How
of
many
a
students?
win-win.
Is it a big university? How big? I mean,
It's not. It's a small D1 university. It's a private university.
Well, I've heard of Oral Roberts before. It's funny
Yeah.
watching the NCAA
Yes,
tournament this week. Everyone's like,
exactly.
"Where's Farley Dickinson? Where's that at?
Right,
Where's
exactly.
where's all these schools that were coming in and obviously being involved with college football and so forth. You kind of know these, and of course some of these places up north. But actually, I didn't realize where Oral Roberts was. I've heard of it, but never actually realized where it was.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. I moved back home. Wanted to be closer to home. My parents went through a divorce. My sister and brother were still at home and kind of helping my mom out while she was going to school. She became a nurse, so it was good that I was able to be there and help out.
So I actually did not put in my notes there because I was striking this morning because we didn't get back till late last night from our spring break. But you weren't a business major. If I recall, it was more like towards biology and so forth. Is actually your area of expertise. What was your vision at that time? 22 years old, of what you wanted to do with your life.
I had actually had aspirations to go to med school, become a psychiatrist, honestly. I'd gone through some challenges in my youth, and it was something that I felt that I could give back. My love language is service, so if I can help someone or help someone through something, that's really what my end goal was. Needless to say, life has detours, right? Life's filled with challenges, and I think some of those can become opportunities, which it did in my life. And I ended up getting into coaching college soccer, which led me on many other detours after that. So I coached D2 ball at Northeastern State University, which is in Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So how long did you hang out there?
So I did that for 2 years, and then ended up traveling. It's the things you do for love, right? Or what you believe is love.
That's yes.
So I lived in Vermont for a bit of time and enjoyed life up there, and then moved to the UK for a bit of time. So I've definitely had
Vermont fits you.
Vermont does.
Vermont fits you.
I won't take that as a negative. I'll take it as a very positive because it's an outdoorsy.
It's
absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous state,
Yes,
and really enjoyed my time up there. And again, still have fantastic friends and relationships.
You know, just thinking about, you mentioned, I mean, we were up just in Western North Carolina, where a lot of people from this area are vacationing up in the mountains, whether it's Tennessee or Western North Carolina or northern tip of Georgia there and so forth. But Vermont, the difference is Vermont's just that much further north. But you're suburbs of Boston, so to speak. Yep. You can, an hour or two out of Boston, you can be deep into Vermont and the mountains and seclusion if you want.
It definitely is. It's an escapism, right? From especially I lived in a small town called Putney, Vermont, which is a very artisan community. And a lot of people, not only from Boston area, but New York City had second homes up there. Yeah. So it was, and it was a place, it's the first time I ever snowshoed, being a girl from Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Growing up. I mean, when we got snow, it was mostly ice and everything was shut down, but learning how to navigate in outdoor sports, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, things of that nature really kind of opened up the aperture for what I could do outside.
It's is it the Hallmark Channel that does all the Christmas specials, that starts in November?
I think so.
I'm sure many are shot in Vermont.
They probably are. That's not, although one was recently shot in Claremore, Oklahoma, if you can believe it.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So you eventually do a decade at Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
In IT.
Over. Exactly.
What, just by circumstance, just picked up a job there? Or, what led you there and you end up spending 10 years with Northrop Grumman?
Yeah, that's, again, the opportunities of your past sometimes, or the challenges of your past sometimes create opportunities. So when I was a little kid, I programmed. We had a small computer at home, and my fifth grade teacher taught us how to program. So I've always had a STEM
That's
background.
actually all the classes we had. We were actually taught how to make the computer actually do something.
Exactly.
Not create a software and plug in the...
No.
We actually had to write the code.
Little DOS, exactly. So I had a knowledge of it. I think just basically, though, I went to school to, get a degree in STEM. Ended up, it kind of fell into my lap. Northrop Grumman was something that I knew about growing up, but didn't realize the depth and breadth of what it provided for not only our servicemen, but our country and also the world, the capabilities. And it was of interest, and it really did. It was one of those, I moved west. I headed to San Diego and did the Grapes of Wrath thing from Oklahoma and completely enjoyed my opportunity there.
So is that where you learned how to fly, or what?
No, actually, in San Diego is when I learned how to fly, and I'd always wanted to learn how to fly. My dad used to take us to airports and kind of hang out and watch the planes.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it was always an aspiration. My dad always wanted to fly. He was in the Air Force, but just couldn't. His vision is what he said. Don't know if that's so true, but whenever I was in San Diego, I met my husband, and actually we met on the first day of work at Northrop Grumman. I was an IT program manager. We did some sexy IT things, if I can say that on the air. So some really cool demonstrations to the UAE for the sheikhs at the UAE, did 4 deployments to Afghanistan, things of that nature. But really my job, in essence, was project program management. And met my husband on the first day, and he was a pilot. He was actually a test pilot in the Marine Corps, and still is a pilot.
Interesting.
One of our first dates, he took me flying.
So he was still active duty.
He actually
working with Northrop Grumman, or
he'd already retired.
He'd already retired. Okay.
Served 26 years in the military.
Oh wow! Wow. Yeah. So he's there flying aircraft for Northrop Grumman.
No, actually, he was a program manager as well. He was site manager.
Okay.
Vice president for the corporation at the time.
He didn't hire you though.
He did not. No, we were in separate sectors.
Okay, so we're building up this back. We're gonna get to real estate here in a moment because I want to touch on before we do get into real estate and really obviously run the rest of the show there. You're involved in actually several different things. I picked out the Whitney Lab as just going down to your LinkedIn. You're on the board of trustees there. Couple things actually, just explain what the Whitney Lab is and what their mission is. but just, like you said, earlier you used a phrase, service is your love language, I think you said. And, why do you want to get involved? And which also leads to, your involvement in the board. What is it that you personally, because you actually, I think you have to personally get something out of it, and you explain it to me. What's your high in doing these type of service volunteer type work and being on boards where people are needed, good people are needed.
Right, they are, and there's always a shortage of people that want to get involved because it is a commitment, a commitment of time, energy, sometimes emotions. So the reason that I get involved to give back is to be that change. To make and create a path forward for others that may not. And I see that in Whitney Lab, the board, wanting to change. I'm on chair of the education committee as well as the chair of our financial committee as being treasurer. And it's really wanting to make an impact and give back. Be that voice for others that may not feel like they want to get involved or can't get involved. So that's one of the biggest things, but also, more so for Whitney Lab and other things that I'm involved in the community, it's making a difference in our community because, we have such an amazing community that gives to us on a daily basis, whether it be in the natural resources, the people here. So being able to give back and make an impact in their lives, that's really what
I think we both have that thing.
is.
Actually, my wife is very involved in different things too. Whether it's in our community, we've been involved there, or different things that we don't like to be the person there, because there's a lot of people who are on the sidelines who are, for lack of better words, being negative. They're bitching and moaning about whatever decisions were made or not made and how they were made. But obviously aren't taking the time to get involved. And everyone should, I think like in European countries, all the men, serve a couple of years in the service. Everyone puts forth their little bit. And then it's the same thing in these different communities, whether it's your local board, it's in your community, or at Whitney Labs, and the other things that you're involved in. We're going to dig deep into the St. John's board, so I'm not going to go in there. But tell me about Whitney Labs and what's their mission, and as a board member, what is some of your responsibilities?
Oh, absolutely. So the University of Florida Whitney Laboratory is a marine sciences center, and really the mission there is for creative research opportunities within the marine sciences. But there's also an outreach portion of it, which is one of the biggest things that I find just incredible of what they do. When I moved to Florida, we lived in D.C. and before that San Diego, and I just had assumptions that anyone that lived in Florida or any state that's close to the ocean, that people go to the beach all the time. When I first moved to Florida, I found out that there's individuals in underserved communities that their children have never been to the ocean, and it broke my heart to know that was
free.
Exactly. It's a free place to go, and especially here in St. Johns County. And good, bad, and indifferent. I know people have different and varying views on this, especially oceanfront homeowners. But I think it's such a great thing that we provide for people to be able to go to the beach and to be able to drive on the beach and take their kids there and enjoy it, because it's my happy place. It's my serenity. It's where I find my, my peace and enjoyment and kind of my calmness in my day. So when I found that out, it was heartbreaking. So to be able to provide that for some of these children, we have an extension outreach program that provides opportunities for them to get to know aquatic life. We have a sea turtle hospital at Whitney Lab. And I am just now rolling into, I'm the chair of Whitney Lab, so I have responsibility of a board of trustees. So really it's helping raise awareness in the community, but also fundraising activities. We've got a new laboratory building coming in. It's $32 million, state of the art. I think about right now it's increased. It was 25, and
it's under construction right now.
It is. We're getting ready to break land for it.
Okay.
That will be probably in the summer, but we'll see when everything comes to fruition. As far as, because supply chain's still impacting everyone.
Yeah. So this new building is going to be for?
It's a brand new laboratory. So Sea Turtle Hospital will be enclosed there. All of the current laboratories. We have, and I don't want to get too far deep because I could totally geek out on some of this stuff.
Right.
Some of the things that we do there are just mind-blowing. You know, they're studying how fish swim and especially in schools and how to recreate that. Some of the things that they do in collaboration with the University of Florida School of Engineering. You know, they use lobsters and the same sense methods that they use in order to detect where bombs may be and, you know, for a bomb squad. So working hand in hand. And then we're also we've got this super clams. We pulled them out, not me personally. By when I say we, it's not me out there. I'm not in waders or anything like that. I'm there cheering. But we actually were able to find super clams in the Indian River Lagoon, which has been decimated. A lot of people may or may not understand that there's really no life in the IRL. So they went down, they found these super clams, and they're starting to breed them. So they're breeding these clams. They're also utilizing Commanders. A shout out to Commanders. He's helping out the owner of Commanders. And so we're breeding these super clams down here in
Well, you're using the term super clams, meaning
They're the
super
ones
fact that they survived?
Exactly. So we're calling them super clams because for them to survive in those elements, and many people don't realize that clams or oysters filter out about 50 gallons a day of water.
Oh, yeah. It's
So it cleans the water. So they've been harvesting and replanting them in the IRL. Oh, it's incredible to see and that's a big thing, especially not only as, you know, stewards of our environment, but also for the impact of home values, right? A lot of people see that red tide, and you know that's been a big thing, especially Governor DeSantis has been focusing on as well.
So to curl this back into real estate in general, the marine lands down there, is that a totally separate entity? Because your Whitney Labs is right near marine land, the same. I don't know how big that. I actually have never been there personally. My wife and the kids have been to Marineland, but I haven't been. But you're in the same general area as Marineland. Most people kind of have an idea where that is. But if someone, you know, as someone can go visit Marineland, can they go and there's a visitor center at Whitney, or do they have to come announced, or how can someone learn more about what you guys are doing there?
Good question. One, I didn't realize this again until I got more involved, but Marineland is actually an incorporated town. They have a mayor. It's quite interesting. And it's a fully functional town. So Whitney Lab is interesting because it straddles St. Johns County and Flagler County. So we're right on the cusp of both. So in coordinating any of the events, especially even this lab, building, we had to work with both counties.
Right.
We had to work within the town of Marineland, who've been incredible in supporting what we're doing and have the same beliefs. Now, Marineland, as far as the corporate entity, that actually is a separate entity from Whitney
So does Whitney have a visitor center? Can someone just drive up and walk in, or what's the...
So the protocol, typically, we do not currently have a visitor center, and that's what the hopes of creating this new laboratory. We're working off of old buildings that were built in the 50s. So, opening up this to be more of a public venue is definitely the end goal. Any questions, though, people can contact me, obviously, in the interim.
Right. Well, in bettering the community, like I said, and I grew up on Cape Cod, so not much different from the standpoint, but every little field trip we did, and we lived so close in a small township that we'd walk down to the town cove, which was salt water, and we'd walk through, and because we were studying all the little mollusks and all the different things that are involved in the ecosystem of the sea. That was all part because we lived it.
Yep.
But there where I grew up on the water, I had lobster traps. We were, sport fishing. Working on sport fishing boats was my first official job at 14 years old. Catching fish and stuff. But there's a lot of my friends where we would take them out at fun, and they had never even caught a fish before.
Yeah. And
and they were teenagers at that time, and we kind of. You and I were exposed to a little more things, and like you said, there's a lot of people who, they were never never taken out to the beach,
Right.
never to sit there and see the porpoises playing, and they're right there,
Right.
type of thing,
Exactly.
or the great life that is all around us.
Yeah,
All right,
indeed.
so what leads you in? I think it was 2018 to make the jump to real estate.
Yeah. So, being in aerospace and defense, I was living in Washington, D.C., and working at corporate headquarters for Northrop Grumman. I knew my husband was about to retire. We had a place in D.C. area, moved to Florida, St. Augustine. And I was traveling back and forth every week, going up to corporate headquarters. And, it gets old. Not only was I doing that, but I was traveling all over the U.S. for meetings and things like that. And my husband was traveling as well. And our realtor at the time actually proposed to me, hey, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I kind of laughed. No, not me. It's not my personality.
Right.
It's not for me. I always say, be careful. Never. Be careful what you say never to. Right.
Right.
So here I am today. I ended up sitting for my exam in 2017 and ended up transitioning into real estate, and about February of 2018, and traveled a little bit. Didn't really fully commit until, it was probably about May 2018. So almost coming up to 5 years, which is crazy to think and say. And actually, it's funny because I was thinking through this today, Tracy. You were probably one of my first closings.
I think I was.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, exactly. Just like yesterday.
Yeah, just like yesterday. Knowing what again, you 5 years in, you're very involved in Bush. You are mixing and mingling with a lot of agents. Most of agents that make up the board, typically they have a lot of experience. Decades, some of them. When you look back now in that time period where someone proposing, hey, you should be a real estate agent. What do you think are three things that I use the word wannabe from someone who's thinking about it, real estate. What do they need to know that you didn't know then?
It's dedication. It's education, it's dedication, and it's continual, commitment is same as dedication, but it's constantly focusing on your business. I got into real estate thinking my husband's going to retire, we're going to travel the world, and lo and behold, COVID hit, right? So shifting gears and realizing that, we're not going to be traveling the world, I kind of focused more on my business. Education, fundamental. And I go back to that for everything. And mind you, I'm the chair of the education committee, so it is kind of my focus. But it's constantly educating yourself, not only yourself, but being in a position where you can educate your customers or clients.
Because I imagine over the years, people have come to you who have thought about going into real estate. You're talking to other agents who are, they're always being asked about, what is it they do, and some of the terms that you use are very are exact. Knowing what I know, being being around you guys and not just being in the industry as long enough, but to someone off the street, there's commitment to what? What do you mean commitment? Right?
Yeah.
See, commitment to you is one thing, but trying to explain to them, consistency.
That's it.
Commitment, one of the questions here, and I'll jump to it because I've always asked it, how important is it for that wannabe agent to really sit down with, someone who's been doing it for a while, someone that obviously has, really proven success, someone who's like, they look at and go, man, I wish I was a real estate agent like them from that success. Because there are agents that, are don't want it as much as others. Right. They're good agents, but they're good with doing their dozen or 15 deals a year, and they're okay with that. Right. And there's others who want more and more and more. Right. And that wannabe agent, which one do you want to be? Because there's a different level of commitment, but then there's also a very similar level of commitment, because you can't, just because you're only doing 12, 15 deals doesn't mean you go on vacation for 3 months and then you're restarting your business all over again.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing I tell new agents is real estate is about relationships, and anything that's about relationships is a long lead game. Very similar to farming. I grew up on a farm in Missouri. My grandparents had one, and it's just planting a seed, it's nurturing it, and it's making certain that you're staying in contact. But more importantly, not just staying in contact, but adding value. And that's really where that, being consistent, finding out what the needs of the community are, or the needs of the individuals that you serve, because we provide a service. That's what we provide in real estate. So it's honing in on those, listening. So it's constantly challenging yourself to not only be there and add value, but also try to figure out and be ahead and 2 steps ahead of what your customers' needs may be. So that's a daily practice for me. Mm-hmm. I strive, maybe not do it, but I strive to constantly and continually be out there and try to add value, or try to provide above the amount of service that my clients are expecting.
Well, I think there's this, exactly to what you're saying, from the standpoint you being in front of them, they're moving into a new area. Mm-hmm. That's why video is so popular, right? If you're doing the video of the communities, people from wherever state they're moving from, which majority of the people are coming from out of state, from what I understand, we're still at nearly 1,000 people a day, but 100 of them are actually moving to St. Johns County. Right. So we're 10% of what's moving into Florida, which is amazing. It's
incredible.
Crazy to think about that. Yeah. And foreshadowing something, because I think a lot of people, they go see the house. Maybe they go, okay, yeah, we like this house, we're going to make an offer. Maybe they go back again. But there's a lot of the things like, hey, where's the grocery store? Mm-hmm. Hey, what are the things you like to do? Are you're a boater, and where are you going to go do that? Where are you going to, you got kids, so where are these activities? How far away is the school, right? Or are you going to have to drive to school because you're real close, or you're going to bus it? I mean, these are little things that go on that you want to be out in front of that client. So committed to really understanding that person where. And I was thinking while we were making that statement there, Christina Welch said the HGTV want to be real estate agents. And they looking at that, and it's not your style. It's not your, they like the house for whatever reason. You may look at it and go, I don't like it because it's on a preserve, or it's on a retention pond, or maybe you're looking in the back of another house. Well, they're used to that. They're from Queens, New York. Right. They're used to reaching out and touching their neighbor outside the window, Right. So where you and I may be like, we don't like that. They might like that. That doesn't bother them. And understanding that and getting out of your likes and wants to really dig into them and obviously make that transition smoother. Yeah. I always like to talk about everyone's first 12 months, because I think there's a lot of trial and error in the first 12 months. We wish there was just this turnkey, thing that just, walk into an office and you're thrown in front of a computer like a 9-to-5 job. But in real estate, it's your business.
It is, and you got to build your business.
Yeah, you can choose to do postcards, you can choose the magazines, you can choose the door knock, you can choose the cold call. Whatever you want to do, it's your job now. You're the boss. Right. You're also the labor too.
Yeah, exactly. And the financial backing.
Yeah. So talk about your initial 12 months or so, and some of the trial and error things that you went through and kind of failing forward.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the one thing, and even Steve Walt, who is an instructor in the area and probably licensed most people that will be listening to this, or help them get their license. Mm-hmm. Is that, they teach you how to stay out of jail when you get your license. That business acumen.
When you need to renew.
How
many CD credits you need.
Exactly. That's what you get. You don't get the fundamentals of business. And having an understanding, I was very fortunate that I had an understanding of business due to my time at Northrop Grumman, due to my time, my father had a small business and I helped him out. But it is an investment. It's an investment, and you need, and one of the things that I was very fortunate to have is that I had about 6 months of income held away, because you're putting money out there, you're putting money out there, whether it be, signing up for the MLS, whether it be getting involved in mailings or whatever your business model is.
Right.
But I think the biggest challenge for me, Tracy, is that it was understanding and defining what my business model would be. And not necessarily did I get out a piece of paper and jot everything down. I probably should have. That probably would have helped me a little bit. But I started doing open houses. And that just wasn't, I mean, I enjoy doing open houses, but that just wasn't my style. What was amazing is that I got more business my first year off of postcards, off of mailers for just solds. I had 2 oceanfront properties off of just solds mailers, which is incredible.
Another house sold.
Another house sold.
So you mailed everyone in the general
everyone
area.
in the general area. I'll call it whatever it may be.
It wasn't even your house that sold.
No, it was.
It was.
Yeah, yes,
you
absolutely.
Can't,
You can't. Yeah. By law, by Florida law, you're supposed to not
leverage someone else's sale.
Yes, exactly. You've got to be on there. But I had sold an oceanfront property and sent out postcards, and lo and behold, got
led you to your next one.
Yes, exactly. Which was, blind dumb luck sometimes can be advantageous,
right.
But I think it was constantly trying to change and challenge myself, right? And it was a bit of, because I didn't have a mentor when I got in, and that's one of the biggest things that I try to do. I try to pull people under my wing, whenever they first come in, because you have to create processes, and I think that's really what helped me in my first year is creating processes. I come from an aerospace background, and getting those processes and procedures down that first year was probably one of the biggest things that I could do for setting up the foundation of growth for my entire business. And I think that finally, after the dust settled of doing open houses and putting myself out there and realizing, let's take a few steps back in order to go faster in the future. So I really started focusing on creating those processes, creating what my drip campaigns would be, creating, what is my listing presentation going to be? What are all of these other add value aspects that I can provide to my customers that I can actually work on right now, that when things start to get busy, I just kind of press play.
Right.
And so that, I think, has truly carried me into these years. I think I mentioned my first year, I was kind of nonchalant about it, not thinking that I was going to do much. My husband was going to retire, and real estate was something that I was just going to sit on the couch and eat bonbons and, look at houses.
Right.
But it ended up being such a passion of mine of being able to help people, because my husband and I have moved so many times. I won't say it's an art form, but it definitely is something that I've been able to, help create in others' lives and help change their lives. So,
did you yourself have what it sounds like initially because you were around some, I know that some of the people that you were with, but really, truly, day one, walk in and you're with the mentor, and that mentor saying, okay, here's how we're gonna. It sounds like you kind of had to go in and you played with it for a little while, then you kind of watching what other people are doing to understand what you just said, which is brilliant. The process, having a process down, that's your process.
Yes.
But it's often, stuff that's stolen from other places and put all together to be yours.
R&D, rip off and duplicate,
Yeah.
I believe in, right? And I believe, I am very open with, individuals that I kind of pull under my wing and give them some of my process procedures and kind of guide them. But, we're each our own individuals, right? I forget who said it, but, be yourself, everyone else is taken. If I were to take your process and system, I couldn't pull it off because it's just not me. I want to be genuine. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this business is be genuine, be true to yourself, and that truly will shine through. That's one of the things that I think is fundamental in my success, at least thus far.
I think one of the challenges that, talking to so many top agents and so forth, just people who really are, involved in the industry, a lot of them will talk about how they found, or even some of these top leaders, brokers, helping their agents find what, their sweet spot is as far as prospecting, because that's what we're really talking about here, is how are you prospecting? That's 90% of what you do is how are you setting yourself up, getting your name out, branding yourself, whatever, all these fancy words. Bottom line, it's all works towards prospecting and finding out what type of prospecting is your prospecting, being authentic to yourself. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to do it for very long.
Yeah,
and especially when it gets tough, you're going to be like, I hate doing this, and I'm not getting any success. It's too far in between. I'm out.
Right, exactly. I was listening. I try to do in the mornings, every morning, try to listen to something inspirational, right? So this morning I listened to Steve Jobs' commencement speech. And so it's a great speech, but in that, it just rings true. Find something that you love, right? And find something that your passion comes across in. And for me to go door knocking, and nothing wrong with door knocking, but that's just not me. It's not me being authentic.
Right.
It's finding because each one of us is so different as individuals. And that's one of the things that I took advantage of in my first year is I was in the office I'm not very much so in the office nowadays, but I do go in there on meetings. But I think, office time is a great time to sit down and you see someone's style that you like or that you feel kind of emulates what you want to project or what you feel resonates with you, and get to know them. Ask the questions, ask them if they can come along with you for a listening appointment. It's hard to ask, but you know what? I guarantee you most of those agents will be more than willing to say, yeah, absolutely, come along. I would love to teach you. I am not one that, I don't think there's secrets in real estate. I don't think there should be. And I'm very fortunate to be involved in an office, a brokerage, that there are no secrets, right? No, it's open kimono. It's like, hey, this is what worked great for me. It may not work good for you, but this is how I got this. Right. So I think it's beneficial.
Collaboration is big amongst any of the top producers, which I think is part of our natural ego. To if we do something, we'd like to tell other people, right. And if they do what we did and they're successful, hey, you can say, hey, they generally will endorse you and say, I just did what Danielle did, and it worked for me. If you were running, a hypothetical, perfect utopia office, would you, and this is a summarization, if I was to write a book of all the agents that I've spoken to, the first day that, and I do see this in some of the very successful brokerages out there, right from day one, they're matched up with a mentor or they have some sort of schedule. Not every brokerage is like that. And I always ask, probably on every episode, the importance of choosing that brokerage that actually matches with you at the time. Right. Because you may change brokerages later because you've run the gamut on that one brokerage leadership change, or you just, hey, I've tapped out, I've hit the lid here. Yeah. I need to move to another level. So you move to another brokerage, who might take you to that next level. But at that moment, it's for someone trying to get into business right now, or you're at that, the orientation at the board, and it's like, okay, what brokerage did you choose and why did you choose them? And really digging deep and spending some time pre-choosing the brokerage could really save you a lot of misery on the backside.
Agreed. And I think it's taking the time to go and interview the brokers. I think a lot of individuals, when they first get into the business, they're kind of trepidatious, for lack of better terms, to get out there. They feel like they're the ones that are on the job interview, which it's completely opposite. You should be interviewing the brokerage to see what they can do to help elevate your business, because that's what it is, whether it be the name of the brokerage, that it's, a nationwide and household name, or it's the training that they provide, or the mentorship. I think all of those are sound components. And it really, truly, again, it goes back to, what are your needs? Yeah, I can't tell you what someone's needs are, right? You've got to decide within yourself, what are your needs? I knew at the time that I didn't necessarily need a mentor. I kind of fumbled through it, we'll say. In my years of leadership at Northrop Grumman, I had that leadership capability, but I had a fantastic broker who helped me navigate at that time and help with the education. And that was, my first couple of years in the industry that's what I needed. And again, it's not for everyone, but you've got to interview as a new agent. You've got to interview and start seeking out. And don't just go to one and say, hey, that was great. Will they accept me? They're going to accept you, I'm sorry to say, unless there's something egregious going on. But get out there and truly ask them the tough questions. What are you going to do? Are you going to provide leads? Is that something you need? Understand your business model or their business model and how that aligns. Understand their values and how they align.
I think the typical person, if we went and interviewed, I'm sure there's a real estate class going on somewhere in town.
Yes.
9 out of 10 of them in that class would assume that most of these brokers are running their business the same way. And the one thing that I've noticed is whether it's the individual teams, like Shara Kavanaugh I had on a couple weeks ago, she's running her team differently than any of the other Keller Williams teams. They're all run, all these top Keller Williams teams are all run differently. So the brokerages themselves are run differently, whether they're buying leads and that's how they're surviving, or it's just they're all structured differently. And obviously to go out and find out what each of them are doing takes a little bit of time, but you can figure it out. But finding out what you need to find out what they are, I think is probably you were going to be a psychologist. That's probably the toughest thing, isn't it?
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. It's kind of a square peg and a round hole type of thing. Will it fit? Yeah, probably, maybe, if you force it enough. But, it's understanding, and it's kind of that, altruistic thing for a second. What is it that you need, unfortunately? But you need to focus on that. You need to figure out what is going to help you and the growth of your business. And I think you and I chatted on this earlier, is that, right now I'm seeing a lot of individuals that are changing brokerages. And I think part of that is that initial interview of understanding and realizing what they're going to do to help you with your business, and that falling short of expectations. And I think that's something that in the real estate business, regardless if it's a relationship with your brokerage or a relationship with your customers' clients, that setting expectations is such a huge thing.
Yes.
And an understanding of the expectations.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
We're going to change gears just a little bit. Let's dig into the board a little bit.
Okay.
We all have them. And obviously, I would think someone like yourself wants to be on the board, or Lenny wants to be president, because they see things are, they want to make some changes. That's why you get involved, because hopefully, you keep improving, or maybe they slacked off in this area for whatever different reasons, and you feel we need to bring that in and make it better. But right now, what are some of the challenges that the St. John's or it should be it's St. Augustine, St. John's, not St. John's, St. Augustine.
You're being a little
St. Augustine,
there.
St. John's. The St. Augustine, St. John's board. What are some of the challenges that the different boards are working with, which are always constant? There's always just one thing after another. But what are the active things now that are on the tables of the board?
Okay. No, I think the biggest thing that is impacting across the state and actually across the nation is engagement after COVID. We had wonderful success being able to be noted as being essential employees during COVID, but that changed how we did work. No one went into the office. Everyone worked from home. There weren't classes at the board, or if they were all on
Virtual.
Zoom.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic because technology actually helped us leverage that and be able to still do business, whether it be with our clients or go to courses or whatever we needed to continue that. What I think it did was take away some of that engagement and interaction. And I think in the real estate world, that's where relationships are essential, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, it's not just relationships with our clients or customers, it's relationships with other agents. It is. And building those relationships is so key. And it's not just agents at your office, it's agents across, and for lack of better terms, the board.
Right.
So I think that really is one of the biggest things we're struggling with, is get people back involved. We're doing a lot of these, I won't say open house, but, types of things where we're bringing more people into the board. So more education courses, live education, right? Doing a few more outreach events.
It was interesting. I was going back into, because I have all this video material, and I really didn't launch the YouTube channel, which I do a lot of YouTube shorts, which I also put on over on Instagram and so forth. But anyway, went all the way back to my interview with Patty Ketchum, which was in the fall of 21. Yeah.
Love her.
Patty Ketchum is Miss Real Estate to me in Florida.
She's amazing.
And all the different things that she's involved in. And one of the things I was going through there and looking for, a good 30, 40-second clip, right? And one of the things she says is she's talking about the how for the, I think she said like the first 10 years, she goes, I didn't even darken the doors of the local board until some people started reaching out to her about, because she was doing some trainings and so forth about taking some sort of leadership. But at the end of the clip, she says, and I finish it with, it's not your buyers and sellers that are going to make or break you. It's the other real estate agents that are going to break it. And she regrets that she skipped 10 years of all the friends that she could have made during that time in the relationship she could have created. Yeah,
exactly. And I think one of the things that I've seen on the board, being a member of the board, is that I do build these relationships with other individuals. And so if I do see a property my customers are interested in, it's so easy to pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got someone that's interested in that property. Can you tell me a little bit more? Because you already have a relationship. And, trust goes both ways, right? Yep. But it's constantly building that relationship. And I think that is one of the big things that has helped me, my involvement in the board. So back to the challenges, though. So the challenge of engagement, that's something that we're facing on a weekly, monthly basis. So getting more events, getting more engagement, things like that. The one thing that I'm truly excited about that we're working on is what's an MLS share. So we're doing a data share for the MLS, and a lot of people may or may not know about it. So we're working with NEFAR, St. Augustine, St. John's, and also, I believe it's New Smyrna. No, Flagler actually went to Stellar. So we're working, Space Coast. So I believe all four of us are currently, and don't quote me on that, but at least I know NEFAR and St. Augustine, St. John's, that is part of it. And what that will do is that I think not only it will help with the collaboration of the boards, but also we don't have to be a member of both boards. I call where we're at in St. Augustine, St. John's, we're kind of that Venn diagram of MLSs, because we got Stellar down in Flagler now, we've got St. Augustine, St. John's, and then you've got NEFAR. And it's costly for the agents, so we're not doing our agents any favors by having two separate MLSs in this area, especially without being able to share the data. We're not doing our customers' clients any favors, because a lot of these new agents that come into the business, they can't afford to be a member. It's expensive, it's costly, especially if you're coming in and brand new. You can't afford being a member of two MLSs, let alone three. So I think it will truly help in being able to make getting into real estate in this area a bit more affordable, but also I think it will help our clientele and being able to publish it across multiple platforms.
So I'm going to be a naysayer here, if you want to call it, because if this hasn't been brought up on the board, then the board is not thinking. Right. My initial thing is like, okay, so I only have to join one. NEFAR is obviously larger. Not that if I live in World Golf Village or South, although NEFAR has their little satellite office there, which I don't even know. I've never been in there. Do they even do anything in there? I don't know. There's no trainings ever advertised for that. It's not like a training room or something. So there's this, where do you become the member? Because you only have to be a member at one of the places, right? So what is this? How does the St. Augustine, St. John's board battle against that kind of initial mindset thought that an agent probably will have?
Yeah, no, that's something that we've already been working through. But thank you for watching our back.
Yes.
So there's that value proposition.
Yes.
What do you bring? NEFAR's agents is 11,000 plus, right? Almost 12,000 in our area, total agents. We're a smaller board. We're considered a small board. We're about 1,200 agents. Being a member, and this is what I've seen, because I'm a member of NEFAR, I get involved in NEFAR. I've also, been involved at the state level, so I see multiple different boards. And one of the things that I found in being a member of a small board is that engagement and opportunity. I guarantee you, I may not, but I'm less than 5 years in this business. And like you said earlier, there's agents out there that have been in the business far longer than I have, quadrupled that time. And I have been able to get involved, to give back. I've been able to, because of my involvement at this, I was promoted to be in the Florida Realtor Leadership Academy, which is 15 individuals at most per year selected across the state to be in this incredible leadership program that Florida Realtors puts on. And that is, I believe, due to my involvement and capabilities to get involved at the smaller board. Right. And with that gives me, again, that more exposure, not only just here, but across the state. So I'm building relationships where there's referral opportunities across the state. And I think that that's all because of this small board that I've been a member of and 100%. Been fortunate.
No, I totally agree. NEFAR is, they have... like any large corporation has, and all of a sudden some politics start coming involved, and really people, I don't need to name names. I can just see the pictures of, are actually going through the motions. They're not actually getting involved. Actually, they actually think they're going to change. They're just getting involved to say that they were there. They held a seat. Right. Whatever, it doesn't pay you anymore when you sell a house or anything like that because you were on some seat of the board. But if it has become a political standpoint, and I think it's gotten to the point where they're not really able to be nimble. I think that, like you said, the post COVID situation, I think they're still dealing with it, and the agents complain. And it's like, okay, your agents are complaining about this, but you're not doing anything about it. Where you go? What's your motive on a daily basis?
Right. Just like any bureaucracy, any red tape, it kind of stifles it.
Yeah. So what are the engagement? That's right. And I had a feeling you were going to answer that question, because I think every board would probably have that on their list of top. If it's not number one, the top three things, right, is getting people involved. From the standpoint of the agents that are out there, are we getting any feedback of what they want? What they think? What role should the board play in their life?
Yeah. So, agents, I am one. I'll speak to this. So I think really what people are looking for in this is how the board supports their business. I think first off, right? Secondly, real estate agents, I guarantee you, I'm on the education committee. That is the second thing, is education. What are we doing to help them? And one of my biggest things as being chair of the education committee is really raising the level of professionalism and bringing that to really an understanding that we all have to constantly work on that every single day. Every interaction, it's understanding what that professionalism is. And so I've heard a lot of that from the agents. We want more education. What are we doing to bring that better education? And the other thing is they want more events. They want events where we can get together and as agents commiserate, laugh, enjoy. So that's something that we're bringing to the table. In St. Augustine, we just had a forward thinking at Ford's Garage for our YPN group, so Young Professionals Network, YPN. And it was fantastic turnout. So we're seeing a lot more of that. We're getting the committees re-engaged after COVID and starting to get more involvement.
The interesting phenomenon, not only phenomenon's the term, but I'm going to take my area manager here, John Adams. He's certified to teach a couple different courses. The local boards are a little, we'll have them in, but they almost don't even want to pay him. Where he can go across over to Tampa and he's like a celebrity.
Right, exactly.
And I kind of gotten the impression, and tell me if I'm wrong, when you say more education, is it more or different talent? Because I kind of felt that we were almost, the St. Augustine St. John's board was just using too much of the local people, which was convenient, cheap, saved a lot of money. But the reality is sometimes you don't really have the credibility because, everybody knows your pains and so forth. They know, maybe you used to produce, be a big producer. Now you're just, you do a few deals a year, but you like teaching and instructing, and you have the knowledge, but you don't have the cred. And that street credibility is what's going to bring them into the building.
Practicum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you obviously taught at the St. Augustine St. John's Board, and we worked together to get your class there. And that's one of the things that I've been really big on is bringing in new individuals. So Gonzalo, who is from Yeha, from NIFAR, he comes in and teaches. It's something similar to what you were saying is, when I became a pilot, one of the biggest things my husband warned me about is flying over the same pea patch, right? If you just fly over that same area, your depth and breadth is not going to expand, right? So you've got to get out of your comfort zone, start flying to different airports. You've got to start really opening up your horizons. And I think in education community, we've got to start taking those people outside of our pea patch, right? And bringing in different perspectives and different thought patterns of what may be going on in the real estate industry and kind of groundbreaking and eye-opening opportunities for our individuals. We're bringing in Patty Ketchum as well, one of my favorites, obviously. We're bringing in, this year we've really increased the budget for education. So we're looking to bring in some big name producers from across the nation. So I think that's another value that we bring as a small board is that we're committed to that and we're nimble. We can listen to what our constituents want.
Right. So for the standpoint of more, was there classes that aren't being offered? Because is that kind of one of the things you're looking out is, hey, we haven't offered this type of class and they're having to go up to NIFAR to get it because, they're not getting their GRI or whatever, the different things.
So, and that's the other thing that we've offered. We paid for individuals' GRIs. We actually had the instructor come in and the board sponsored. Individuals getting their GRI did not have to pay a cent to get their GRI, at least the first 101.
101, right.
So, and we're going to be doing that 2 times this year. So we'll do 102 and continue in the series. And that's something that, again, we're committed to helping raise that bar in education. I think that's a fantastic aspect. Thanks for bringing that up.
I know you did the social in, let's see, when did you guys do the social? Was it in like November? Has it been that long? Or January?
Life? Or which one? Yeah.
The one you did, the restaurant that's only open a few days a week.
The Asada Life.
Is that what? That seemed to be well attended.
Oh, it was very well attended. Yeah.
But there was a lot of the similar people there, and I know there's a lot more agents out there. What are some of the things, if anyone's listening, to reach out to some of those other teams that are there? And, because I think the St. Augustine St. John's Board is powerful from the standpoint of it's St. Augustine, and you don't want to lose that identity, but also the things that are going on in St. Augustine are different than what's going on at Jack's Beach, like with Airbnbs and all that kind of stuff going on, really centralizing the location. A typical NIFAR person isn't worried about, St. Augustine Beach and their 100 permits for Airbnb, right? They're not concerned about that.
Right. Or an understanding a historic home and how to promote it and have an understanding of what those houses are, and how to be able to understand. Old houses talk, right? And being able to communicate and convey what actually, these baseboards that are old hard pine, right? You don't see that up in Jack's. Maybe a little bit, but not as much.
Or being just involved in how the downtown St. Augustine is a very precious little area, and tourism is our big money maker, and how things at the county level and the real estate board is a group, is a lobbying group itself to be involved in those. And so how can if anyone's reaching out to what you believe in the individual, to bring in some of those people that we know are down there, we know they're influencers, but get them a little more. I won't mention names of these people.
No, I know
but
who you're talking
I'm just,
about.
there's a group of them. Where it's like, hey, you guys are influencers in the area. You have a lot of agents who follow you.
All right.
Or your team. You got to engage here and give back a little bit to protect what we have.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things that one of my missions this last year has been growing our education committee and getting more people involved from these different brokerages that are
Who will bring in a
underrepresented.
following. They're going to bring
Exactly.
in people.
So they're going to eventually bring in following. The other thing is, one of the things that as a board of directors that we're concerned about, I think one of the bigger things in St. Augustine, and this is not a knock to anyone that's previously been on the board or anything, but it's been a rotation of previous individuals over and over, people that have served on the MLS board, then come over and serve on the board of directors.
They've been repurposed.
So they're constantly, exactly,
Yeah.
It's just reshuffling, right? It's the shell game in some sort of capacity.
Yeah.
That is my big focus. I want to get individuals. I want that new perspective. I want people to come in and say, hey, I don't know how you guys have been running in the past, but have you thought about doing this? I think that is one of the ways that we can only grow and grow better as an MLS and as a board, and be able to provide those services back to our members. So I'm very focused on bringing new people in. It doesn't matter experience level. I'm all about getting new individuals in front and getting them in leadership opportunities.
There's a huge, probably sub 35 group of agents in St. Augustine that are really doing well.
Absolutely.
And that could really be influencers for any new agents coming in, because they've had huge success, because I think a lot of them had great mentors.
Yeah.
They came in and plugged in a process that someone else was doing it, made it theirs, and really accelerated. It would be great to get them in front of the group and get those new ideas and perspectives. Because I imagine a lot of things that you guys are, you do talk about is, and trying to educate, is technology in our business. It's constantly changing, and there's 1,000 trinkets a day, I'm sure, being thrown in front of everybody. Shiny objects all the time. So how do you balance, your involvement at Whitney, and I think there was something else there I didn't even mention today that was on your LinkedIn. I don't know if you're still on that board. You're very involved in like making those positive changes for the industry and so forth. How do you balance that? And then you actually got to go sell a home.
I don't. No, I'm just I have amazing support of my husband. He's kind of become Mr. Mom, and he cooks, he helps me clean, he does all of that. So I'm very blessed in that regard. I constantly have to time block, and I'm an individual that creates a routine. And I think that my routine has truly helped me in that, Tracy, and help navigate and set those boundaries, right? And set those expectations, not only for the boards I'm on, but also for any of my clients' customers. I'm in bed by 8:30. I know. I'm one of those
I try to make it
people.
around 9 o'clock. I turn on the TV and
exactly. I'm reading a book. I'm ready. Lights out at 9, if that, because I'm up at 4:30 and my day starts. And so creating that time blocking really helps me, and especially because I probably do the majority of my business at 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and I get everything done for the day. So for the rest of the day, anything can happen. And I've already got the necessity of the items completed. So I can kind of roll with the punches. And, you can't necessarily control what your customers and clients want to do, but at least you can control that part of your day, because most of the world is not up. And I understand not everyone's a morning person, right? I mean, I'm very blessed with genetics, or cursed, whichever way you want to look at it, with genetics, that I wake up naturally like that. But, it's finding that time in your day and time blocking. I think time blocking is such a critical element that's helped me in, we'll call it, finding a balance, because I think there's always something that I feel like I'm not giving, enough to. Hopefully that helps.
Well, I don't know, hopefully it helps you.
It does. My mental sanity increases if I'm able to do that. So, yeah.
What do you think are 3 characteristics of a successful real estate agent? And when I wrote this question, successful real estate agent could be, that's a wide berth there.
Right.
What someone we know there's agents, doing 30, 40 transactions as an individual agent, maybe with an assistant or transaction coordinator, something like that. We know there's agents that are, doing 12, 15 deals, and that's success for them.
Right.
But what do you think are some similar characteristics of those successful agents? They kind of have their game going on.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that success is defined, and it can only be defined by yourself. And so within that, I think one, it's focusing on what is important to you, and not being, putting on your blinders, not comparing yourself against anyone else, setting your own goals, not someone else's goals. And I feel that that's what I've done in my career, and I'm not saying I'm successful at all, but I'm also not going to sit here and go, oh gosh, that look on Facebook and be like, oh, gosh, they just got another listing, or they just got another, under contract, and comparing myself to that, because that's not who I am. Who I serve is different from on those individuals. So that's first. Two, knowing who you are. I think knowing who your clientele is, understanding how to market to that, and what services you provide to them. So I think that those are two things. And a third, I think, is a process. I really think is a process. And surrounding yourself is another one, but surrounding yourself with people who are knowledgeable. And you may not have all the answers, but knowing who to go to for those answers. So whether it be your broker, a mentor, or even individuals in the services that support us, right? So many of our business partners, even, I pick up the phone and say, hey, I need you to come look at this immediately. So I think it's really surrounding yourself with capable individuals.
We've talked about it from the education side and working at the board, because you have some brokers that are highly engaged. Their people have to be in at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're doing these things as part of their process, and then you have the EXPs of the world, and now Real and Florida Homes they're all virtual. In your opinion, I mean, how important is, because you did gesture it earlier, especially the first 2 years, coming into the office and being around other people who are doing it.
Right.
How important is that?
I think it depends on your personality, first of all, right? There can be people that can work in a dark room and be fine. I found it for myself that first 2 years, especially, getting to understand the neighborhoods. I came from a place, I lived in St. Augustine, but I was traveling all the time. So getting to know the neighborhoods, driving around, back then we were doing broker opens more so, and then also, doing caravans on Tuesdays typically. That was a way for me to not only ride along with another agent and get their kind of perspective on the areas and everything else, but also to see neighborhoods that I wasn't familiar with or haven't ever traveled to, because I was brand new to the community. I didn't have a sphere of influence, zero. When I moved to St. Augustine, I was traveling all the time. So that was a big thing, is for me to be able to learn from others and get to know communities. And that was a big part of going into the office. And especially even nowadays, I make an attempt, I strive to attend our weekly office meetings, because not only are we there and collaborating, because I think that's such an important aspect, but also even at 5 years in, I still on a daily basis feel like I can still continue to grow and learn about the industry, and maybe not necessarily about, how we do things in the office as far as the culture, but I think as far as understanding the community and how we can better serve our clients or customers. And I think a lot of that is you can glean that from there, and you don't necessarily get that on a Zoom call. So as much as possible on those Tuesday meetings, I try to be in the office, because there is a cohesiveness and a collaboration that's shared. And so I do feel like it's important. And even right now, even at 5 years in, I feel that it's important on at least twice a month. I try to make it into the office.
Right. Well, I mean, you can get at home and if we watch, you can go across YouTube right now and you can catch all sorts of, if you just narrow it down to real estate. Yeah. And, of course, like anything, like the news, YouTube, Facebook, or whatever, their goal is to keep you engaged on their platform.
Absolutely.
Now,
clickbait, right?
Clickbait, and we're our tendency is we want to, some of the, even when creating, I was actually being somewhat taught a few things about YouTube. Creating a sort of a negative title, it might be a positive reel,
Right.
But creating a negative title is actually going to get you more attention. People are going to click and go, what are they talking about? What do you mean housing's going to blow up in Florida? Oh, what? I got to click on that,
It's a fear
right?
factor
Yeah.
as well, right?
And then when you're at home virtually and you're kind of being fed those headlines, you can obviously get discouraged or whatever. I would imagine coming in and obviously a wise broker knows that when they're having these meetings, it needs to be positive. Like,
Absolutely.
that may happen, but this is how we're going to deal with it, right? And this is how you need
Absolutely.
the mindset you need and creating that mindset by coming in the office and being around those others.
I think that mindset is probably half the business, right? I really do. I think your mindset, what you focus on expands, or what you focus on is what you become.
Right.
And so and I'm not a positive Pollyanna, right? I don't believe that, I don't quite have a half glass full type of perspective, but it's not or the glass is always
It's definitely
full.
not half empty. You're
No,
more
it's
of a
not
glass
half.
half
I
full.
am. I'm an optimist, honestly. But I'm also, it's truly focusing on the good of the world. And again, like I said, not focusing on who, Sally may be under contract and why am I not getting under contract? It's making a change, seeing what you can do to get out in the world and make a difference.
The wonderful thing about our business is you call Sally and say, Sally, hey, I saw you listed that and you've already got it under contract. Tell me a little bit about what you did and what you think helped it get under contract. I think a lot of agents are, my perception is they're trying to skip some of those little simple steps, like going in and decluttering the house and maybe staging it a little bit and going through those things. And then you have a contract on Monday when you listed it on Thursday versus it going for weeks sitting there.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize the prep. And that's one thing, you go back to your question, what did you not realize whenever you first got into real estate, is that just because you got a listing doesn't mean that the work is over, right? It's actually, you get a listing, you work on the house, it's just begun. And sometimes it's spacing that out and understanding what that timeline needs to be from when you get the listing agreement signed to when it goes active in the MLS, and whether it be looking at repairs that need to be done before it gets on the MLS, or even light staging if needed, or full staging as needed. Maybe the sellers, I've got one house right now that's getting ready to go on the MLS, that we changed because the sellers decided to move at the time that it was going to go on the
empty.
MLS. So then it will be empty. So now I'm going to stage it and then put it on the MLS. So we delayed it by 3 weeks. And knowing you have this capability and leverage and being able to kind of, be nimble and be able to adjust and be accommodating to their schedule, because it's about them. It's not about us. It's not about us. 100% this is about our clients and customers.
Right.
And it's not about our end game. It's not about the money that it puts in. It's helping and serve our customers. So if they need to make these changes, then yes, that's what we do. But that's one thing I didn't understand coming into it. I thought you got a listing immediately, you got pictures, and you put it on the MLS and you're done, right? I mean, I knew there was work afterwards. I wasn't that naive. Right. But I realize now, in getting that perfect opportunity for when you only get one chance to make a first impression, right? So making that first impression where people are looking at it visually and seeing and understanding, you want them to look at the house, not the clutter in the bathroom or the clutter on all of the kitchen cabinets. I'm notorious for going in, and the photographers I work with will always show. I bring in orchids. I do even above and beyond what what other agents do.
But it pays off.
It does.
And that's where I think there's a little bit of disconnect, because the stress of all is would you agree the sellers still right now feel they list their house on Thursday, they're going to get multiple offers over the weekend, and on Monday they're going to make a decision which one they go. That's their expectation. So if you don't have any traffic, or you don't get an offer, and Monday comes and goes, now all of a sudden the stress level duplicates. That's and you're like, why don't I have an offer yet? Why do we only have 3 showings on Saturday? Why, type of thing goes on. And if you're doing that preliminary work like you're talking about, you spend a few extra dollars here, but ultimately what is the satisfaction is to make it a stressless right?
Absolutely.
They go, oh, wow, yeah, oh, my God, Danielle was great.
Yeah,
We listened
exactly.
on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, we had showings, offers started coming in, and we got, asking, or we got a little over asking, or whatever it may be. That's the wow factor.
Right.
So maybe you spend an extra $1,000
Yeah.
and, doing some stuff from cleanup, buying some
Absolutely.
orchids or whatever it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, and just go back to your earlier of what, getting into the office and learning, it's not just learning about, real estate in general, it's learning about the market. And each market is so different. Our market here in St. Augustine is completely different from Jacksonville market. They're two completely different entities. And it's having, again, those conversations, those tough conversations up front with buyers or with sellers, and making certain they understand what the current market conditions are. Because that also, we're still seeing houses go under contract and multiple offers. It needs to be priced right, and it needs to be in top condition. And that's where you're seeing that happen.
Yep.
At the other end of the spectrum, then you're having to have those tough conversations, or sellers are looking at you like, why didn't my house sell in 2 days like everyone else on my block? So that's one of the benefits of getting in the office, because you really truly get an understanding of what the market's doing and what the market will bear at the time.
In our markets right now is based on every news story that comes out.
Oh,
So, I think, I tell people we had this very well-known person come on and do a webinar, and I found out he not only did a webinar for Loan Depot, but he also did a webinar for other lenders as well, because he has this national program that they all tap into. So he, talking about, this report's going to come out on the 14th, rates are going to drop, because rates correlate with inflation.
Yep.
Inflation's going to drop. What
heard
we're
that
finding out now is inflation actually isn't in check, and it's getting worse. And it totally is that. So we're preparing to sell this point. I'm telling, hey, you might want to float your interest rate. So we're having to deal with it, and obviously lenders don't want to start telling people, oh, well, now we're at 7.5%. No one wants to hear 7. No. We're kind of eating 6 right now.
Right.
But that's a constant thing that obviously you guys are dealing with, because your customers are calling, we're pre-calling, well, what's the rate now? Oh, well, maybe I should wait. Should I wait? Or no? And they're dealing with that. How do you overcome that? And that was a great point. I'm trying to, I think it was, if it might have been Shira when I was talking to her, is those little things that you get when you do come in the office. Right. Someone gives you a tip, like how do you overcome the objection of buying and selling now. In her situation, the people had a house, had a lot of different fees and services that were involved. And, by the time, hey, you sold that house and put the down payment on the new one, and, you're going to cut those expenses and stuff. So, you are paying a little bit higher interest rate, but actually in the long run, you're actually saving on a monthly basis. Exactly. And so you only learn those things by interacting with other people, whether it's loan officers, and we're talking about how to sell a particular loan, or, we used to do a lot of refinancing and paying off debt and so forth, to selling a home and convincing your customer, or at least painting the path for them, because they want to move. It's just now they need to have the logic of why they're moving, right? Some people need the logic.
Well, I think understanding the why is always essential in anything we do, right? And knowing the motivation behind the why. And it's asking those questions as agents, as individuals that are servicing the community. Why, and know the understanding of that why. Because there's probably a little bit of a layer there that you can peel back and start to understand truly what the motivation is. If someone doesn't have to move, or maybe there's a divorce, that's a why that you would have to move. Unfortunately, a death, divorce, those are the unfortunate situations in real estate that we come across, but there's happy situations. Maybe there's a new baby on the way, right? That why question is always really critical in understanding motivation, and that may surpass a 7%, right, level, right, of interest rates, where they'd be like, you know what, I don't mind, I will take it now. And plus, one of the things that I tell my customers right now, there's less competition out there. There's sellers that are giving a lot of incentives right now that eventually would be advantageous for you. You're not paying $100,000 over asking price, for this home.
Right.
So ultimately, it is saving you money.
Well, it lets you establish, and I think you used the term today. I've heard it repeatedly again. The top agents and the agent who might be listening here is setting those expectations. Because when you get the whys, then you can set the expectation. Okay. Oh, you think this is going to sell within the week? Okay. If you want this to sell within the week, you need to price it here. We need to stage it. We need to get rid of that stuff that's in the garage or whatever.
Right.
That type of thing.
And the price needs to be at this level. Or we have a price renegotiation after a certain week or 2 weeks, a month.
What do you think is one of the biggest factors in agent retention overall? The fact that 80% of the people who are taking a class today are not going to be there for their renewal 2 years from now.
I think it's support. I do. I feel like that mentorship. I think that is a critical role. I believe that, a lot of people also, not setting expectations, don't understand what they're getting into. They think that it's going to be a fast dollar. And especially with this last couple years, the real estate economy was booming, which is fantastic for us both and everyone that was an agent and is an agent. But I think that there's misconceptions about what it takes. I think once you get your license, like I said, you get your license to stay out of jail. And to actually build a business, I think there's fundamentals we don't teach enough. And that's, again, one of the things that we're trying to bring to the board at St. Augustine, St. John's is not only are we going to teach you how to stay out of jail, let's hope, knock on wood, but we're also going to teach you how to continue to grow your business, using Google, understanding, having a Google business profile, how that can help you in searches, understanding SEO, understanding, fundamentals of I am even wanting to teach a course potentially about growing systems and processes. So things like that will help in the long run, that maybe individuals, they're great at real estate as far as on book, but when you get out and perform, they don't have that support or that know-how or the history or education.
I was just thinking, when you were mentioning those things because I really, I always ask the question 6 or 12 months. Not everyone has 6 months of savings or have a spouse that can support and that type of thing. One of the things at the board that I think might bring in people even before they are a real estate agent is, so you want to be a realtor,
right?
And really advertise that. So you want to be a realtor, come in and then make it a social, and a couple of people, speak of it. This is what it's going to take, and everyone can hand out their prospective cards or whatever brokerage they want. So these wannabes, they'll go get their license, and then they can call on these people and go talk to them, or talk to them before they. I think they should already be having the conversation. Before even taking the test, because if they, I think a reasonable person can pass the test if they put forth the effort there. But having it, so you want to be a real estate agent, bring them in before they thing. Because I always I've mentioned it several times on here. I remember my dad telling me when he wanted to start a business in the small township that we were in on Cape Cod. He talked about. There was these business people, and you could come in front of them and talk about the business that you wanted to do, and they would, poke holes or, help you get it going or where you needed to go. And I think that's the differentiator between someone getting a good start, and in this case, a lot of people fall out because they even, they just don't have enough survival. They only have so much time, and then they go back to doing what they were doing before or whatever. But so you want to be a realtor.
I love it.
And bring them in, make it a social, and because I would imagine there's some little bit of hesitancy and nervousness as someone's a new realtor walking in, as we all are, and walking into someone new. You don't know anyone typically there, but somehow getting them matched up with a real estate agent. Someone who they can confide in that will bring them into a group like that.
That's one of the other things that I'd like to start at our local board is a mentor program. And then also a leadership academy. And I think those two things can also assist in helping people
Yeah, you definitely
foster
need
that.
you definitely need new blood coming in,
Absolutely.
new ideas.
Agreed.
And because if the younger crowd, you'll see these old guys are just going from that board position to that board
Right,
position.
right.
It's cronyism. I don't want to be
That's
involved in it. So then they just totally blow off the board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
But make you feel people more welcome.
Exactly.
I'm out of my questions, and we've been going here quite a long
I
time.
know.
Did you have some notes there? Was there anything that you wanted to say that I didn't bring out in you?
No.
Okay.
I appreciate you doing this. I think you're opening up some opportunities for people to get a behind-the-scenes peek of the real world of real estate. And
Yeah.
it's not always glamorous,
Well,
right? It's not.
As I
what are
mentioned to
they-
you, this is the kind of stuff I
Right.
think these people
Yeah.
that we're talking about should be listening to us having these conversations.
Yeah, it's not like, what are the shows in LA, that they put on HGTV or not even HGTV, I forget, Bravo or whatever,
Bravo, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. I mean,
yeah.
it's not all glam and glamour all the time, right?
There's
It's
some
a lot
sweat
of-
and some tears.
There's definitely some good, some bad, and everything in between. But no, thanks for doing this, because I really think it's helping with the community and with the outreach to individuals that need to hear this.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, last informal question, as I have on every
Okay.
show: is it more important who you know or what you know, and why?
That is a tough one. So I always say that I don't know the answers to everything.
That's not an acceptable answer.
No. So with that, I'm segueing. Bear with me, Tracy. I'm segueing and saying that it's knowing who you can reach out to when you don't know the answers. And I think that that's more powerful. I'm not about a who you know. I don't rub elbows with anyone
Well, you
famous.
can't
but
know everything.
You can't.
But you're going to the boards. You're involved. You get these
Absolutely.
agents have been doing it for 20 years. Or, I mean, in an old city like St. Augustine, I imagine they run across whether it's some title issues,
Oh, yeah.
stuff, all
the
sorts
time.
of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some squirrely stuff. And to be able to reach out to someone that said, oh, yeah, I did a deal like that 5 years ago. Yeah. I sold the house 3 doors down, and this is how you're going to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think it's knowing who to reach out to when you don't know the answers.
Yes. I like
All
it.
right.
I like it.
All right.
Danielle, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate
you.
all that you do and the passion that you have for being a board member. I do it myself, and sometimes when someone says thank you for doing it, we're like, whatever. That's just who we are.
Right.
Hopefully, they appreciate that. We are who we are, and we want to be part of it, and obviously we do it from the heart.
Right,
I think that's the important thing whenever being on a board. And I had someone compliment me a while back. After 11 years being on my CDD board, and they're like, "No, you are." I've seen a lot of chairmans before, and they said you're the best. And I said, "Well, I appreciate the compliment," but he said, "No, because you always led with the heart. You always felt what you were doing was and you thought about everybody and made a decision based on everybody versus your own agenda, type of thing." And I think that's important for the success and keep things moving forward.
That's kind of my mantra, is leading with the heart. Lead with love, right?
Lead with love.
Lead with love.
Yep.
So yeah.